The National Prosecuting Authority is investigating Directorate head advocate Hermione Cronje has resigned. She has held the corruption-busting unit since 2019. The NPA has not provided reasons why Cronje quit before the end of her term. NPA boss advocate Shamila Batoyi says she will recommend President Cyril Ramaphosa accept her resignation effective from March next year. Batoyi has praised Cronje, saying she was committed to justice and holding the corrupt accountable.
Well, for more on this, former asset forfeiture unit head Willie Hofmeyr joins us now via Zoom. Thanks for joining us, Advocate. You spent a lot of time in senior positions in the NPA, at the asset forfeiture unit and the SIU, and you worked very closely with Hermione Cronje. What were your dealings like with Cronje during your time at the AFU?
Well, I actually set up the AFU in the early 2000s with Hermione, and she is an incredibly talented individual, a very passionate lawyer, and really committed to South Africa. I think she left the NPA eventually when it was captured around 2010-11. And I was very, very glad when she came back as head of the investigating directorate. But I am concerned about why she is leaving. I think that partly I suspect that there are still a number of people in the NPA at the moment who are not on the right side of things. And I think that is something that we have to give very serious attention to.
You know, I know Hermione has been very apolitical. She's a sharpshooter. She doesn't mince her words. She may have rubbed some people up the wrong way. But as you say, she was very committed to ridding us from the scourge of state capture and rooting out the individuals in government and bringing them to justice where necessary. But there are so many moving parts when it comes to corruption cases, Advocate. Do you think the NPA has capacity to actually investigate these cases in the manner that they need to be?
I think there is still a big lack of capacity in the NPA. But I think Hermione really has done quite a lot at building the capacity to deal with these tough cases. So I'm just concerned about what happens now. I can't really think of a easy replacement for her.
Yeah, as we were talking earlier, she certainly has integrity. And, you know, one of the issues perhaps at the NPA is that it doesn't have integrity testing, whereas the AFU and SIU does have this. Why is it so important, Advocate?
Well, I've been motivating for this integrity testing process, which we introduced while I was at the SIU. And we also used it briefly in the NPA before the then national director stopped it. But I do think that this whole episode does make, for me, the point about why it is that we really need integrity testing, that we really need to know the people in the top ranks of our law enforcement bodies, that they are fighting for the right side.
What does integrity testing actually entail?
Essentially, it's a system we developed when I was head of the SIU. We used a technology called voice stress analysis, where we asked people a range of about 20 to 30 questions in front of this little machine that gives you an indication of whether people are telling the truth or not. And I think it's a very, very important tool that can be used to ensure that we keep our institutions, and particularly the critical institutions like the NPA, clean, and that it's not captured as easily again as it was in the past.
Do you think, Advocate, that in a massive corporate, almost, even though it's a government-related entity, that there are forces for good and bad within the unit?
I think in the NPA, you know, I suppose it's a matter of public knowledge that we had people like Jiba and Mkhwebe, others who were dismissed for essentially serious wrongdoing in the organization. But, I think the difficulty is that there are other people who supported them, but who are still in the organization. So I do think the national director does have a tough job, but I do think also that we need to take much more serious efforts to ensure that the people in our top law enforcement positions are actually fighting for the right side.
Last question.
And I think that's where the integrity testing can be very, very valuable.
It certainly sounds like a good idea, and it'd be interesting to find out why it hasn't been employed at the NPA. Just in terms of replacing, Hermione Cronje, we've lost Advocate Hofmeyr. All right, that was an interesting conversation. He certainly knows what goes on inside the AFU and SIU, which are arms of the NDPP. So his insight there is most helpful. And as he said, Hermione Cronje's departure will be a massive loss. We'll come